So at long last, we're at the fourth and final part of the overview, and then we can actually get into the course material. So this will just kind of summarize things we've talked about and give you some other hints on how to be successful in this class. So first of all, this is true of pretty much any course, except for perhaps underwater basket weaving. You get out of the course what you put into it. So if you work hard, you'll get a lot of stuff. Be prepared to work hard. This semester in particular, because of the rise of the LLMs, we're going to do things a little differently. And so some of the assignments are actually will require more thought on your part than may have been the case in previous semesters for a variety of reasons. Do not miss deadlines. I cannot emphasize that enough. There's a lot of hand reviewing that I do and the TAs and stuff do in this course. And if you start missing deadlines, it screws things up because we have other things we have to do and we set aside chunks of time to work on reviewing. So if you start saying, oh, I can't submit the thing on time, I need a week extension, it's just not going to work because by that point we will be on to something else. And the course also moves pretty fast. Please participate in discussions in class and on Piazza. Here's the welcome note. This should be pinned to the top of your Piazza page in the Q&A section. So please read it carefully because it's got lots of good things to remind you about. If for some strange reason you don't know the link, that's the link, but you should have gotten an email. If you didn't get an email, that's probably because you weren't enrolled in the class as of yesterday when I enrolled everybody into Piazza, or registered everybody into Piazza. So let me know if you need the link. Please get in the habit of checking Piazza frequently, a couple times a day, especially when we get close to when the assignments are due, because people tend to post a lot of questions then. No, surprise, surprise. And also, there's lots of good stuff in Piazza, and you need to kind of be aware of it, because oftentimes you will have a question, and someone will have already asked that question. Myself or the TAs or graders will have already answered that question. And so usually if you ask a question that's repetitive, I will just point you to a link to where the answer already exists. Here's a big one. No laptops or phones in class except explicitly allows. There are times when we'll do that. Failure to comply with this rule will cost you participation points, and I will monitor it because it's pretty easy to tell. Why do I do this? Because like many of you, I have a hard time concentrating when I'm in a meeting and I'm doing something else. And inevitably what happens is people will not pay attention, they'll be drifting off, surfing the web, doing other things, chatting with friends, and then they'll come along and say, what's going on in the class? Now, my answer to almost all those questions are, there's a video of what we covered in class, so please go watch the video before you ask me to repeat what we covered in class. I don't mind talking about stuff at all in office hours, but I don't like to repeat what we've already covered. So this way, what you'll be able to do is go back, watch the videos. You can take notes if you want, but don't sit there and type on your computer. It's going to be very annoying. So, and also it discourages people from actually engaging. There are lots and lots and lots of resources here. So we've got office hours. My office hours will be after class upstairs outside the Wondery. Yes? Sure. Yeah. And the easiest thing to do, honestly, is to keep track of where we were in the video, because then you can always go back and rewatch that section, just kind of take a note on what you need to remember, or what would have been perhaps confusing is a good example. So we got office hours upstairs after class. If for some strange reason you can't do it then, I can usually be around before class, or we can pick other times to get together. We have the online discussion forum, which will be very, very useful. I think you'll find it a great way to communicate with everyone and learn stuff, especially where there's confusion. There's textbooks. I recommended a couple of textbooks. They are not required. We'll do everything you can possibly imagine through the course material, and links in the slides. If you want to get further reading, you'll see that all the slides have tons of links. You can get the PDF versions of all the slides, and you can click on the links if you want to follow those things along. And then, of course, we also have the video lectures, which will be uploaded usually relatively shortly after class. I try to get them up by the same day, especially if it's the 2 days before a quiz so people can study for the quiz. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but they usually go up by the end of that day. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources to leverage, and try to make it as interesting as possible. So come, be involved, ask questions, don't be a bump on a log, and so on. And my website has lots of useful information. So this is the website, and I'll also point out, if you take a careful look here, if you go to my website and you look at the o-index.html file, that was the material we covered last year. So we are going to cover different material in a different order, perhaps, but this will give you at least a pretty good idea of what we're going to cover. So if you're curious about what we're going to cover, it may be there. Like I said, we're going to do some different things this semester for a lot of reasons. But my website has tons and tons of useful stuff on it. And it also tells you that you can go to the YouTube playlist where this stuff is linked. There's a playlist linked here, which is a playlist containing videos on foundational Java functional programming features, Lambda expressions, method references, and functional interfaces. If you're struggling with that, you might want to take a look at those things. The very first assignment doesn't really require you to know anything about functional programming. It's leveraging object-oriented programming for reasons that'll become clear here shortly. And again, please resist the urge to email me unless it's super duper important, like I'm having a heart attack or something like that or whatever. Then please reach out. But I may not be the best person in that case. If you have a heart attack, please get help. So please try to use Piazza. You can post privately. I will read your private posts. Other people won't see your private post. You can post anonymously. So if you don't want people to know who asked the question, because you might think it's not a good question. Usually they're very good questions. Usually everybody else has the same question. Feel free to post it privately. But and also if you have something like, here's my code, what's wrong with it? Don't post that publicly. Although I guess if it's really wrong, then it doesn't matter if other people see it. But in that case, post it privately. But here's what to do if you have code problems. Please, please, please don't post something to Piazza saying, my code's not working. What's wrong? It's pretty much impossible short of being an oracle or having a divining rod to know how to help you. So what you need to do always, push your code to your GitLab repo and send me an email and remind me, don't post anonymously and say, my code doesn't work, can you help me? I can't help you with that either. So send me a private message through Piazza saying, I pushed my code to my repo. Here's a reminder of what my link is. After a while, I will know what your links are, but at first I won't. And can you take a look? Happy to take a look, but you have to follow the rule. If you don't follow the rule, the response you will get back will be something like, please see item number 15 in the course fact at the course fact site, which says, if you need help in your assignment, please push it to GitLab and then let me know where to go find your code. So this typically happens the first couple times, and then people kind of clue into it. So try to short circuit that process. Obviously, there's lots of opportunities. It's kind of interesting. I was taking a look. There's a salary website that gives the average starting salaries per year and whether they go up or down. For the last many years, computer science was at the top. Last year, because there was a little hiccup, there was a ripple in the force, and a lot of big tech companies laid people off towards the middle of the year, whenever that was. It actually went down for the first time in ages. Still doing pretty darn well. You can see that it was doing well last year. I think it's still doing pretty well. But the world is changing, a la Galadriel in the opening sequence from Lord of the Rings, if you've ever seen that, although not quite for the same reasons. The world is changing. And one of the ways the world is changing is in the very, very short term, and forever, as far as I can tell, AI and augmented intelligence style tools are going to change the way that we do our profession. It'll change a lot of other things too. And so the way to think about this is to learn how to use those tools to make yourself super productive. And the reason why is AI is not going to take your job away, but another person who knows how to use AI better than you might. So words of the wise is, rather than trying to pretend like these things don't exist, instead embrace them, learn to use them. They do, in fact, have amazing abilities. Like I said, not always working properly, but that's going to change over time, and we're going to get smart about how to use them. And in my mind, the greatest thing about this new generation of generative AI tools is it's going to allow us to shift our focus from programming, which I love, so don't get me wrong, I love programming, to problem solving. And that's the great shift that's about to occur. For the longest time, people have understood that computation is important for many disciplines, ours, of course, included to that. And when they came and said, we need to be computationally literate or computationally advanced, what can we do? And up to this point, what did we tell them? Learn to program in Java, learn to program in Python, learn to program in JavaScript, God help us. That really wasn't the right answer. A much better answer for many disciplines is learn how to use tools where you can express your intent in a way that's more natural to you for solving problems. And then as the tools get better and we get better at interacting with the tools, those tools do a lot of amazing things for us. And I'll give you some examples. I won't bore you with this right now, but it's remarkable to me every time I try something where I normally would have done it either through brute force by myself manually or by writing a program in my favorite programming language. Oftentimes I can do it faster, better by using ChatGPT with plugins like Code Inspector, which is really cool. So I will demonstrate that and prove that to you. But the point is that this is going to make a big shift, and it's going to change our profession. I think it'll ultimately make us a lot more effective, but it's going to be disruptive. So the sooner you can become comfortable using these tools, the better off you're going to be. Last thing, my get off the stage slide for this overview, we have to tell you what happens if there's an emergency. If there's an emergency, go up the stairway and leave the building. So do not take the elevator. Do not run screaming, into a back room and shut the door, most likely, depending on what the emergency is. But for most things, that's the evacuation plan. I've never had to actually do this, but it's good to know that it exists. So that is the end of part 4.